Hello and welcome to this episode of Not Just Ghost Stories. I'm your host Josh, joined by Jackie and Laura. We're a small team of experienced paranormal investigators, and here we discuss different locations that we've investigated, along with a little history and the paranormal evidence that we found. Today we're going to resume our conversation that we were having last episode about Octagon Hall and our revisit. So far we've gone through talking about Anunnakians, and mostly that's what we've talked about because it was a very odd and confusing situation, but there was a whole lot more involved at Octagon Hall. There's two barns on the property, like we said. There's also the summer kitchen that's outside, and then of course the actual house itself. So let's get started on the next part. How about we talk about after we had gone to and started, and Jackie had pissed off the whatever type of
the second
Anunnakian, whatever it was. We decided to venture over into the second barn and just kind of look at things. Who wants to describe what the other barn was like? Jackie, you want to describe?
Well, it was cool. I like barns. I kind of grew up with a barn and stuff, and I like barns. So this was kind of a cool barn and stuff. You go in there, and it has animal stalls. I don't want to say horse stalls because it could have anything in it and stuff. And
I felt pigs.
That's nice. Well, that's not very nice. You calling me a pig? No. So, but now it's basically just storage. Storage for stuff they probably never will need, storage for stuff they might need, whatever. There is a loft. Of course, it's a barn, so there's a loft. And there's also, it is two straight, like, aisleways. And each aisleway has the double doors at each end and stuff. The one where we went in, then the double doors, if we went out, we couldn't go out because that went into the a pasture and stuff. So, and I'm pretty sure the pasture was electric fence. And again, I grew up on a farm and I know electric fences, so I don't mess with them. But anyway, we wandered through the one barn and the one aisle and just kind of looking at things. And of course, I'm like, oh my God, it smells like a barn in here. Oh, I'm in heaven. Oh, I'm just going to sit here and stuff. So. And then those two wandered off because I guess I annoyed the hell out of them. But the further as we went down, there was a hole in the loft that you could see up. And when we got to that hole, I thought, no way in hell am I going up in that loft. There's something up there.
Well, then you have somebody like me that's looking up in there going, I have to get up in there. There's something up there. I can feel it. There's something there. However, there was no ladders or anything around where I could get up there. I could try to climb up the wall, but I have a feeling I probably would have gotten yelled at by somebody. Laura, do you remember seeing the hole in that loft?
Yeah, and I'm not for sure why there's a hole there, and if there is a hole, why there's no way to get up to the hole.
Yeah. But I did remember we were I did try to stand on some stuff and kind of look up in there and going, there's a couch up there. Why is there a couch up there?
Yeah, I was going to say there was, you could see furniture.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like thrown up there. It kind of looked like
it was placed.
Sitting area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were, I was very interested in that, but I also was to the point where I knew something was there, and we started trying to make some type of contact. We actually started getting sounds of something walking around. You could hear it, the footsteps upstairs in that loft area, and I just kept going. But then the energy kind of started to shift in there for me. I don't know how you guys felt.
Yes, it was shifting.
Yeah. To me, not in a good way. Not exactly sure what it was, but by the time that we were done in that barn, I was drained. I was tired.
Yeah. I remember you were kind of over it.
I started wandering back. I'm like, I'm not going to be here when whatever once pops out of that hole. We'll just, if Josh is interested, he can have him. And by that, I meant whatever the entity was up there could have Josh. So
it was
and Laura, edgy. You were with me. You and I started wandering.
Yeah,
off.
It felt edgy in there.
Yeah. I just remember when I came out, I wanted to take a break. I walked inside the house. And we had already done the house by this point. Some other parts that we'll get into. But I just sat there. I remember sitting at the table, drinking something, going, man, I just feel done.
I think, because by that time, Laura and I were on the other side, and we had no idea where you were. And I think you just went in the house. I don't even think you told us. And I remember Laura opened up this one room and went, I don't need to go in any further. So, of course, she come out, and I thought, well, let me see. And I opened up the door and went, yep, this is good in here. We don't need to go in any further.
Some places you just know you ain't got time for that.
Yeah, when there's a snake skin hanging down, you know you don't want to go there.
Yeah,
And
at the door.
Yeah, when we, because I would know what room you were talking about because I was in it a little bit earlier and I saw that, and we all said, no, we're not going in there because that was a very, very big snake.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid of snakes. I just don't want to deal with any snakes at that point.
Yeah, I don't mind pissing off an Anunnakian, but hey, I am not dealing with a snake.
In our defense, in that part of the state there, there's a lot of poisonous snakes.
Yeah.
They have a multitude of them. So you just can't be too safe.
Now you're bringing that point up. Would have been better if you brought it up when we were there.
I don't think you would have wanted to know when we were there.
I don't remember you saying there's a lot of poisonous snakes here.
There are.
Yep.
Good to know, just a little late knowing.
You're welcome.
So, but I do know that when I had walked into the house, you guys stayed outside.
Yep, we left you. We went to the summer kitchen, which is outside.
Well, we were heading for the house, and then all of a sudden, I believe you started the change. Boom. We're in the summer kitchen.
I gotta go in there.
Now, would you guys like to explain what you found in the summer kitchen?
Sure. To mind you, the summer kitchen is not the original one. It had to be rebuilt. I think we went over that in the original podcast on this. So when you get in there, it's essentially just a brick. It's just a little brick shed. That's what it is.
With a huge fireplace.
Yeah.
And all cooking utensils.
Floor's brick, walls are brick, everything's brick, other than the part of the floor that's dirt. But that's beside the point. So in there, you can, when we got in there, that energy is one of those big energies, important energy that doesn't need to do anything to let itself be known. So we discovered it's our original Anunnaki, and this is where he is, in the summer kitchen, which is the smallest place for him to be. So, Jackie, you want to?
Well, the one thing I remember about the summer kitchen, and this happens a lot, it's a small kitchen.
Yeah.
We could, if we stretched out our arms, we would have slapped each other. But you were facing one way and I was facing the other way. You were talking to something different, and I was watching the Anunnaki, our Anunnakian came and stuff. It was just one of those things that if the recorder had picked it up, it would have been two conversations with only two voices, but those conversations were totally different. People listening would have thought that we were nuts or something.
Yeah, and on that recording as well, it records up to a certain extent, and then it just stops.
Well, and
just not there.
That's what I was getting ready to go up to. I usually listen to a lot of our EVPs, Laura, and including yours. You had your EVP watch. The recording at that point was 14 minutes is what it showed. I've gone back and listened to it a couple different times. You guys were talking, and it really was kind of funny to listen to because Jackie was having one conversation. I could hear your conversation. Laura, you were having one conversation and they were totally different. Asking different questions, and you can tell it was just kind of odd talking to different things. And then both of you just kind of oddly synced up a little bit and said, hold on, what are we talking to? And Laura's like, well, I'm talking to this. And you're like, Jackie, you said, are you sure? And it all of a sudden started, and Laura goes, hold on, something's different. And I think by that point, our Anunnaki started to kind of really, the energy kind of started to envelop a little bit, and Laura just went, I feel off. As soon as that happened, Laura, when you turn off your recorder, I can hear it. I can usually tell it's your fingers fumbling for the stop button.
I wear it as a watch, so
Yeah.
I have to also move my sleeves and
Your recorder at that point just totally stopped. There was nothing. There was no fumbling for it. There was no hitting a button. There was nothing, because usually, even if you sometimes like to wear it as a necklace, kind of like around a little thing that you have, so that way it's not on your wrist and you're not covering it up with anything, you would still be able to hear your fingers kind of touching the button. There was nothing. It completely just stopped, which I found a little weird.
yeah. But I guess the main takeaway from when we were in there is Jackie made the comment that he needed to, the Anunnakian needed to, what did you say? So we wouldn't have to go back.
Oh, yeah, that teach you how to astral project, so that instead of having to get the date and get the money and do all the equipment, that you and him could talk. So he needed to teach you how to astral project.
And for whatever reason, he was very specific that it had to be into the summer kitchen. It couldn't be like around the summer kitchen, like not in the barn, not in the house. Like it had to be in that specific spot. So for me, that just kind of entails that there's a lot of different things that go on that property at various times. And it's probably not the same thing at any two given times, which it's unsafe in a way, just because there's so many unknown things on this whole property. You really do have to be careful there.
Well, getting into our first original podcast that we did on that, we went and hung out in the gazebo. That's where we had a lot of stuff happening last time we went. We had what we think was
aliens.
Yep. Also possible Bigfoot.
Anunnaki in the barn.
I mean, we had
and the owl in the tree.
The owl in the tree. In the gazebo this time, nothing. There was absolutely nothing.
No, not a thing.
However, the one thing that always stuck out in my mind about this whole entire thing, it was at one point 2:00 in the morning, and those sheep would not shut up.
Yeah.
And usually at that time, they're bed. They're sleeping. They don't make a whole lot of noise throughout the night. A lot of times with sheep and even different herds, you'll hear one here, one there. Cows are the same way. You'll hear one here, one
even
there.
The babies were still up.
Yeah, the whole entire flock was still standing. There was a few laying, and they were all still just very loud, which was odd compared to when we went into the barn earlier. They were all very loud until we opened the door. And then, but it was all night, even to the point when we left that place, they were still going, which I found just very odd overall. So yeah, we didn't have as much happen outside as we did last time. We ran into something that Jackie ended up making angry, and we all had to kind of like fumble to get out.
He started it.
Laura and Jackie both interacting in the summer kitchen with what we think was our original Anunnakian, finding what possibly could be some type of doorway outside near something that was just odd, near a tree. When we were walking down that path, it's almost like you couldn't get off of that path. If you tried to step off of it, something pushed you back out of it, and you just couldn't do it. It was almost like you were stuck. You couldn't walk on either side of that little path. Even back into the graveyard, the different graveyards and stuff, wasn't as active this time as it was last time. The house, inside the house, we did do the investigation in the house. We went upstairs. We were on the main floor, with all of our equipment. Plus, there's the living room stuff, and then we were in the basement. In the basement, we did have stuff happen down there. Laura, let's see, I was in one room. Jackie, you were in another room. Laura comes to me because she was in the main area and said, I don't feel right. Something's not right here.
Yeah, I was starting to panic. That's why I came to find you.
It was stronger energy.
It was. And mind you, the second time we went to Octagon Hall, I was pretty seasoned as an investigator. I wasn't afraid to be places by myself anymore. But this one, it was like, I felt like I just had to keep running around in a circle like a dog chasing its tail because I couldn't figure out where I should put my back to. It was just uncomfortable, almost like something's like trying to creep around you, like slowly put its arms around you so then it can just catch you real quick. That's what I felt like down there. And I was kind of like where those stairs go down and there's that table that kind of got stuff down inside of it, I think it's bullets and stuff from the war time. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the vicinity I was standing in. And I felt something touch me on my back. And, we go a lot of places and most of the time I'm not touched unless I'm specifically asked for it. So that kind of caught me off guard. It's the only time I was ever touched on that property. I mean, it wasn't anything bad, but it wasn't anything I saw or anything I anticipated coming up either. It just was bam, there and gone. I have no idea what touched me.
And let me tell you, when Laura gets touched and you're standing in the doorway, you're going to get run over.
Especially if I didn't feel it coming, because that means it's good. I didn't even feel an energy until it touched me.
Well, and when Laura came to me and she's like, I'm not comfortable here. I can't be here. And I just asked her, so what's the problem? And she goes, I don't know. And I have that on recording too, which I thought was funny. And when I went back and listened to it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot her saying, because she couldn't figure it out. Which makes it almost kind of, start to question how is she not feeling it? She's always been able to feel everything. So what exactly are they doing? Or are they on a different, I guess you can say level, different dimension where she can't physically?
I've even revisit it, try to take myself back to there, like the way I felt and what was I hearing and seeing and all of those things. And I don't know.
I got the impression, especially having gotten run over by you after you got touched and stuff, that the first time we were there with that little boy and perhaps a slave that wanted to push you down the stairs, Josh.
Correct.
Yep.
But the little boy was concerned, like they're firing, get down, This time I got the impression that we were there with the commanders and that somehow they saw us, but we were wearing the wrong color. If those were Union soldiers, they were seeing us as Confederate soldiers. So there was a lot of animosity directed towards us.
That's a very good theory. It could be why, edgy is a word that I used in that scenario and for that visit.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there was some shadow play going on down there. There was energy down there. I didn't feel anything bad off of it this time compared to what I had last time. But I think I was also kind of more ready for it than I was the last time. Like, hey, if you're going to try to push me, come on, let's do this. But it didn't feel the same as it was last time.
That might have been too. I got the impression we were perceived, whereas the first time perhaps we weren't perceived. We were just part of the scenery and stuff. But they saw you as a man. That makes sense. But then two women show up. What the hell are we doing down there?
Right.
So that might have been how they perceived us, the difference in things.
Yeah. I mean, the awesome thing to me about Octagon Hall is there's something different. Franklin, Kentucky, if you do your research on Franklin, Kentucky, is an odd place. They have seen UFOs. There supposedly at one point, I think there was a plane crash in town. I think we talked about all this.
There's been so many things happen there.
Yeah,
it's definitely a layered history.
Yeah, but even the
Dogmen, Bigfoot,
aliens.
But it's all for some reason centered around this town. So, could it be from, a lot of Civil War stuff happened in Franklin, Kentucky. That's why Andrew Jackson was a huge um, person for the Confederates. He was a Confederate himself. So was it because of all that? Because Franklin, Kentucky, I believe, was built a lot around Octagon Hall, wasn't it?
Octagon Hall was 1812, I believe.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
So, it's just crazy to, think about how different everything is. The property, and again, what's sticking out in my mind there was the sheep, just not being quiet whatsoever.
For me, it's the fact that the least interesting thing that happens on that property is done by dead humans.
Yeah.
That's the least boring part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even go there to investigate people that used to live because they don't really matter in the grand scheme there. There's so many things going on, and I'm sure there's a million that we haven't even experienced there because it's different every time.
Well, the first time, and maybe it was just me, because sometimes I won't do the homework. I'll just go like, yeah, let's go see. I knew it was Civil War, and we had come off some pretty rough ones. I think we did Fairfield County Poorhouse, and we had come off some pretty rough ones. And I remember thinking, Octagon Hall, we're going to see Civil War soldiers. Yes, it'll be cool. And the first thing we get there, we're outside, and Josh is inside going, something pushed me down the stairs. And I grabbed the phone going, get out of here. There's something that's coming after us. And from then on, the whole night was just weird. So kind of Octagon Hall sort of actually disappoints me because I went there going, yeah, just going to talk to some human ghost. It'll be so much fun. And no, it wasn't.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is there's been a lot of different paranormal groups there. And I almost wonder if it's, we always go there. We go into any place with an open mind. We want to see or try to feel everything that could possibly be there. We have different places that, we've been to and we picked up on other things that other people haven't because we've had such an open mind on things. So the first time we went, now, the biggest thing is a lot of people only see, Confederate soldiers or something that has to do with the Civil War back in those days. And there are pictures that they have of them. But do you think it's because they go in with more closed-minded, like this is the only thing we're going to see?
Well, I do remember the first time at Octagon Hall, the lady saying, yeah, you got to go out in the barn. One of the great ones is there. And I'm thinking, what the hell's she talking about? Mm-hmm. But you got to appear cool as a ghost hunter, so you don't question her or anything. Well, she's talking about Anunnakian. And then I was watching Nick Groff in Deathwalker, and he was at Octagon Hall. And what was he talking about? The lights he was seeing in the skies. Which the first time I went there, I was outside by myself watching these 3 red lights just hovering in the sky. And I thought, well, it's a radio tower, stuff like that. I watched it for 10 minutes just hovering. And then all of a sudden, they're gone. And they never came back. It's not a radio tower.
Yeah.
Those would have been there and stuff. So I think a lot of people do get a lot of different things. But I think it is so odd. You come back from there going, I'm not going to tell anybody because they'll think I'm crazy.
And here we are telling everybody because we don't care.
Exactly.
I'm just hoping somebody knows the answer. Maybe they can let us know what we can't learn on our own.
Well, okay, then one last question about Octagon Hall for the both of you. Jackie, you first. If you have the chance to go back, would you?
Yeah. I kind of like the real Anunnakian, not the fake one. I kind of like him. He seems like an upright guy, but he's a god, so I could be totally wrong about him. And those aliens, I would love to know what the hell were they?
Yeah. Laura?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of places I felt that, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, but this over here is better. So there's still a lot of questions I have about there. And I definitely would go back because knowing that I wouldn't get to answer any of those because that's probably not what's going on that day.
Yeah. All right. Then another one, just follow up. What would you recommend as a paranormal investigator? Would you say you need to be a little bit more seasoned to be there? Or if you're a rookie, maybe this will be your first or second time ever doing anything like that?
I also think from having gone with people that haven't been on a ghost hunt to having gone with people that have been on many, many ghost hunts, you were going to see to your level of experience. We'll get into it because we are coming up with Hinsdale, but Hinsdale's very dangerous, and I am always like a little celebration. I survived it because it is one of those places that I can see not surviving. But I would never tell anybody don't go there. It's dangerous because I think you're going to see to the level of your experience. You may see stuff that scares the shit out of you. You may see stuff that kind of gets you thinking you're crazy. But like I say, I don't think you're not going to get overwhelmed until you are at the point like we are. Where
I think you have to
everything
open yourself to
Yeah.
it, is what you're saying.
Okay. All right. Any last words about Octagon Hall overall?
It's well worth it. People should go.
You'll probably hear us talk about it again at some point.
Probably because we're going to go back at some point. It'll just end up happening because that's what we do. Well, overall for me, Octagon Hall, still an amazing place. It's still a place I think about. Still a place I'm like, I definitely have to go back again. Would I take, let's say, any of my kids? No, not yet. They're not ready for it yet.
But we have also taught our kids to be very open to things, so they would experience those, more experienced side of things.
Yeah, they just have to be a little
they
bit
would
more
be
ready.
looking for it.
Yeah, they have to be a little bit more ready, and they listen to this podcast, I think, and well,
now they're going to bug you about going, Dad, take us.
and they start to hear the kind of things that we go through, and it's just one of those things. As you start to open your mind toward it, you have to be ready for it, is the way I feel.
And I think you brought up a good point, probably the one I was trying to make. Your kids are great, and I'd take them on more ghost hunts than I would any other kid, but they don't understand at some point you should be afraid. So I would not take them to Octagon Hall until they understood that at some point you should be afraid.
Yeah, you need to learn how to be afraid and know when it's time to leave. So,
hey, I know that. I know how to leave.
Laura will run through you to get out.
Or ask you where the door is.
You won't live it down.
I can see how scary it is.
All right. Well, with that being said, this has been Not Just Ghost Stories. We have been your host, Josh.
Laura.
And Jackie.
And until next time, you can find information and contact us on our website at notjustghoststories.com and see evidence that we've discussed on Facebook and Not Just Ghost Stories. Thanks.